right, we got Nick back here. Nick came to me and said, hey, let's talk mass housing with the office. Nick's one of the top agents in the area. He also manages the Wilbraham Landmark office.
That's right.
And you were talking about maybe getting us in there to talk mass housing.
Yes.
And some frequently asked questions. And I said, hey, Nick, why don't you write some of those questions down and let's do it here, because other people got those questions too, right?
That's right. And we got a list for you, Brad.
All right. So
we also have
what do we need here?
A fresh new hat for you.
Oh, I saw these. I saw you post about these on the line.
That's right.
And I was super excited to see those. And now I am super excited to own one of these. All right.
There you go.
Do we keep the sticker on? Is that?
I take the sticker off, but I mean,
off?
you
I
do you.
I see some of the kids these days, they keep the stickers on.
They do.
Or they do like this with the...
They flatten it even more.
I don't do that.
I just don't even touch it. It just came this way.
Back in my day, we'd stick it in a cup overnight, and we'd let it just form like that.
I love it.
So anyways, this is great. This thing fits awesome.
It does. Looks good on you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
It's your color.
All right, sweet. All right, so let's get started. I'll just let you read from the questions that you've assembled with some of your agents, and we're going to learn all about some mass housing today.
Love it. I'm going to probably learn a thing or two here myself.
Okay.
So.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, so we got a few for you. Let's start with this one. Mass housing is primarily for first-time home buyers. What is the definition of a first-time home buyer?
Okay, so this one seems like it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
The first time I bought a home, right? Well, it's actually not quite that. So it is anybody who has not owned a home in the past 3 years. So somebody might come to me and go, well, I inherited a house and I lived there until 2 years ago, but I never bought it, right? No, but they owned the house. So they're not a first-time home buyer because they've owned a house in the past 3 years. But if I've sold my house over 3 years ago, guess what? You're considered a first-time home buyer.
Oh, so it's not in reference to the purchase date. It's more how long since you've been a homeowner.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And mass housing actually has a unique rule when it comes to first-time home buyers too. So if you had owned another property and actually, let's say again, let's just talk inheritance here. Let's say you owned another property, say in the Boston area, right? And it was inherited and you rented that out and you sold it 6 months ago, but never lived in that house. You always lived out in Wilbraham, right? You actually are considered a first-time home buyer in that scenario if you never lived in that house. Now, the one rule is mass housing will not let you own both houses, so you can't still own that house and then buy your place out here in Wilbraham.
So you'd have to sell that inherited rental property in this scenario.
Yeah, exactly, prior to. So again, 3 year is the general rule. Most first-time home buyer programs is as long as you've not owned a house in 3 years, you're a first-time home buyer.
Awesome. Good to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I feel smarter in my hat, my new hat. This is good. Bring me more.
All right. Is mass housing a conventional or FHA loan?
All right, so it actually can be both. Think of mass housing as kind of like the umbrella over all the programs inside of mass housing. There is a conventional version of the loan and there is an FHA version of the loan. So most of the time when people ask me this question, it's because they think that there's additional requirements on the appraisals because of down payment assistance. There is not. If you are approved mass housing conventional, it's a conventional loan. If you're approved mass housing FHA, it's an FHA loan and it has the same standards as any FHA loan. No additional inspections, no additional overlays, just straight up conventional FHA.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
All right. Next.
What else we got? When talking about available funds, I hear a few different figures thrown out there. What is actually available to buyers?
All right, so this one is where a lot of people do get confused. So that's a really great question. Not that the other ones weren't great questions. I'm just calling this one out to be
We
greater.
won't tell you who made it.
Yeah, whoever came up with that one is, very
list.
smart. Right? They must have this hat. Anyway, it's hard to find the information out there on Google, unfortunately, and AI doesn't do any better of a job.
That's why you're so valuable.
Yeah, ChatGPT. Yeah, you got to come to the chat, BRAD. That's I like that.
That's pretty good.
All right, I love it. So the question was, how much is available? There are two down payment assistance programs available through Mass Housing. They both have to do with income that you make. Now, one is called Workforce Advantage. That one will actually come with $30,000 worth of down payment assistance, and that $30,000 is at a 0% interest rate. You don't make any payments on that $30,000, and there's no mortgage insurance. Right? So on the $30,000, think of it this way. They're basically giving you $30,000 to put down on your house. And then when you go and sell your house, say 5, 10, 15 years later, give them back their $30,000. They're letting you borrow that money interest-free for that period and no mortgage insurance, even though you're not putting down 20%.
Okay.
All right.
And doesn't matter how long you've lived in the house when
No.
you go to sell?
No. You're still going to pay back the $30,000. You could always pay down the $30,000, but unless you've paid your mortgage off, why would you ever do that? It's 0% interest. It's not growing. There'd be no reason to.
Yeah.
The other program is their standard program. That comes with $25,000. Now, as of June 2nd, 2025, the new guidelines for MassHousing break out even more different income limits. The Workforce Advantage, $30,000, is for a lower income limit. You then have a below 80% AMI, or area median income, and an above 80% area median income. Meaning, if the area median income were, say, $100,000, if you're below $80,000, you're below 80. If you're above $80,000, you're above 80, right? Area median income. There's two different programs now. One of those programs comes with $25,000 at a 2% interest rate. You do make payments on it, and you do have mortgage insurance. The other one comes with a 3% interest rate. You do make payments on it, and it's at a 3% interest. So the $25,000 that you get is what comes at that reduced interest rate. Your regular mortgage for all of them is still your regular mortgage. You're generally getting lower than market rates with MassHousing. But your regular mortgage is one piece, and then the down payment assistance, either $30,000 for the lower income, $25,000 for median to somewhat high income, and then the $25,000 is broken up into how much you pay, whether it's a 2% or 3% payback on that interest rate.
Gotcha.
All right. So it's hard to figure out how this all works because they also have different rules. Like the $30,000 wants to look at the entire household's worth of income, whether they're on the loan or not. Okay. Whereas the $25,000 is only looking at the borrower's income.
Right.
So if you're married and you come in and you're the only one on the loan, Workforce Advantage would say, all right, where's your spouse? What's their income? Oh, if you like it, ladies, better put a ring on it. Oh, there we go. Anyway, so the Workforce Advantage would look at your spouse as well and say, what's your spouse's income, and to see if you qualify. They would actually even look at your grandmother, if your grandmother's living with you, with your parents, with anybody who's over the age of 18. But the regular would not look at anybody else. They're going to look at that income to determine if you qualify for that program or not.
Interesting.
All right.
So it's not really a one size fits all.
It's not, and you don't get a lot of great information online when it comes to that. There's a lot of mortgagees, is what I call it. It's almost like reading a different language, whereas a mortgage professional should know how to read through that stuff. But as a consumer, you're not necessarily going to understand all of that stuff. So hopefully we're breaking it down here and people will understand. But Workforce Advantage is household income is what we call it. The other two programs, the standard programs for $25,000, is just borrower income. So it wouldn't matter who else was living in the house.
Gotcha.
We would just look at you.
Interesting. So, well, good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, hit me with the next one.
We didn't go over this yet. What is the minimum credit score required?
All right, so 640 is the minimum credit score.
Okay.
Now, generally speaking, 640 to probably 660, maybe 680, those people are likely going to be an FHA because the FHA approval criteria is a little bit more lenient. And above 680, you're probably then again going to be conventional, but that doesn't mean it has to be that way. I sometimes have 640s who are conventional that can go into this, but 640 minimum. If you're a 625, we're going to talk to you about bringing your credit score up because we want to get you to that 640 so we can get you the awesome deal that this program provides for you.
Yeah, the common denominator here is just come to you, and you're going to find a game plan for them.
So. And a lot of times when people ask me, like, what's the minimum credit score? I'm like, it's not about minimum, right? 640 might get you into this loan program, but what about 2 years from now when you go to buy a car? Do you want a 12% or do you want a 4%, right? Let's actually get you in a good spot to where it's not just this house, but let's get you to a good spot for life, right? And sometimes, honestly, this program helps people with that. So sometimes people will come to me and say, hey, I don't need down payment assistance. I have $25,000. I'm going to use my own $25,000. And I go and I look at their credit and I go, instead of using your own $25,000 for the house, why don't you use the money I'm going to give you from MassHousing here and take your $25,000 to pay off this car that's at a 9% interest rate, to pay off these credit cards that are at 25, 30% interest rates. Like, take your 25 and we're going to pay down your debt. You're going to walk into a house debt free, and then use my $25,000 for the down payment assistance that comes at either a 0, a 2, or a 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
Like, that's a no-brainer.
That is. That's great.
So, anyway. All right, next question.
Like
we got this.
Yeah. All right, so say I'm a seller or I'm representing a seller, right? It's my listing in this scenario. And a buyer's agent brings me an offer with a buyer using this program. Is this buyer less qualified than, say, buyer number 2 that might be using a more standard loan program, like a convention?
Yeah, we do get that question a lot. And I would say actually, no, you're probably more qualified in this program than most.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that for this reason. If I were to look at our average credit score, which is probably is somewhere around like the 720 to 740 range, is our average credit scored borrower. Again, that does not mean everybody's got those credit scores, but our average credit score for standard loans is no different than our average credit score for MassHousing loans. Okay. So if I look at those averages, they're all right in line in that same range. So you've got the same credit profile borrower, and there's just many reasons why people might use down payment assistance, including maybe getting a better interest rate.
Yeah.
How about this? Like, you come to me, you want to borrow $100,000, right? You want to borrow $100,000, and I say, hey, I could give you $100,000. Today's rates are at, I'm making this up. This is not a rate quote out there, so I'm not doing APR and all that stuff. But let's say I say, hey, today's rates are 6.5%. Would you rather come to me and say, hey, I want to borrow $100,000 at 6.5%? Or would you rather me say, hey, how about I give you 75 at 6.5, and I'll give you 25,000 at 2%?
Right.
Like, right?
Take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're not a less qualified buyer. You're just probably a smarter buyer in that scenario. Yeah. And they actually oftentimes are more qualified because MassHousing does have a ratio limit of 45. All their debts combined cannot exceed 45. So housing plus other expenses, 45, just across the board. That's it. You can't go over that. Whereas most programs will allow you to go to 50, even up to 55%, even higher on some VA loans, crazily enough.
Right.
But MassHousing caps it at that. MassHousing wants people to own houses and wants people to keep houses. It is a super consumer-friendly program.
Consumer-friendly, safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I'd say oftentimes they're probably more qualified than some of the other ones because the guidelines are a little bit more strict when it comes to that stuff. So people that are going into it are actually good quality buyers.
That's great because, as you know, working with sellers, sometimes they're not as familiar with this term or this loan program.
Yeah.
So us not only educating our buyers on this, but sellers too, for when they are selling their home and they might come across this. It's great to have these answers ready for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
So, all right, what do we got next?
How much money do you need down with a MassHousing loan?
All right, so there's different answers for number of units. For MassHousing, you can actually do anything from a single family up to a 4-family home. Okay, in both conventional and FHA. So with the conventional version, I'll start with that. You really could walk into the house with very little money, like next to nothing. Let's just use this as an example. I'm going to use super round figures here so then it makes some sense. Let's say somebody's buying a $400,000 house, okay? They could take that $20,000 down payment. They could put as little as 3% down on that loan. The $25,000 could cover that 3%. So what's that, $12,000, right? They're getting a full $25,000 on a $400,000 loan. Now, the closing costs aren't going to be probably this high with all the taxes, insurance, and all that stuff. It's probably not quite this high, but for illustrative purposes, that person could use $12,000, 3% down payment, and the other $13,000 that's coming from the 25 could go and pay all their closing costs, and they could essentially get into the house with next to nothing out of pocket.
Yeah.
That's on a single family. Now, on a 2, 3, and a 4, there is a rule for conventional that you need to have a 3% minimum investment. So you have to either put 3% down or 3% towards closing costs. You have to have 3%
of your own money.
You have to have skin into the game.
And that only applies for multis, you said?
That is for multi-families conventional. FHA, no such rule.
Okay.
FHA, your whole thing could come from MassHousing, down payment assistance, and again, we can use the remainder of those funds to pay for your closing costs and could get in for, relatively little, next to nothing out of pocket.
This wasn't on our list, but I'm kind of just thinking out loud. What about covering expenses for, say, home inspections or appraisals?
So home inspection, you're going to pay for some things up front. This is actually a great point because this is something I bring up to my buyers when we're talking about how much money they need.
Sure.
So home inspection, they're going to need to pay for that up front out of their own pocket. They are going to have to come up front with appraisal money as well. Now, depending on how it's set up, we might actually be able to get that money back for them at closing, but they have to pay for it up front. And the biggest thing that buyers do need to come up with is a deposit on the home.
Right.
Okay. So as you know, a seller wants money, right?
Yeah.
They want some money to take it off the market.
Right.
So they want to hold some money back. That's totally negotiable. As you know, you negotiate that all day long.
Yeah.
So oftentimes when people are doing these down payment assistance programs, you just try to negotiate something that's lower, $3,000 to $5,000, somewhere on there. But if we're setting it up to where you don't need any money out of pocket or close to nothing out of pocket, we could actually set it up to where you get your deposit back at closing,
Right.
and your appraisal money back at closing.
Okay, that's great, especially with the appraisal money.
Yeah.
Because I've dealt with that with VA loans in the
Yeah.
past where a deposit is being held in escrow and they're putting, zero down and they do get it back. So
Yeah.
it works similarly to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's 100% financing, right? And same thing
Okay.
with VA. VA doesn't have to be 100% financing. You can put money down if you want.
Right.
There are some advantages to putting some money down, even with VA and with the MassHousing loan. But the availability to do that is there, and you do have to come up with a deposit and your appraisal.
Good to know. Okay,
So,
great.
and-
Got a couple more for you. Can you tell me anything unique about a MassHousing loan and what is your favorite feature?
All right, I'm going to give you two things here. All right,
Love
so
it.
number one is going to be if you are a veteran or a service member, even if you're not eligible for VA loans, this is not a VA program. Again, this is FHA and conventional, no VA type of program here. But if you're a veteran, whether or not you're eligible for VA financing and you have what's called your certificate of eligibility, you can actually get an additional $2,500 in free money towards closing costs on this
Oh,
program. So on top of either the $30,000 or the $25,000, you're getting an extra $25,000 that you don't have to pay back.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's not like forgivable over a certain amount of time. It's not like, 5 years from now you sell your house and half of it was forgiven. No, it's just immediately you get that $2,500.
Okay.
The second one, which is really cool, is job loss coverage. So you've heard of mortgage insurance, right?
Yes.
Okay. You've got to pay this evil insurance is what I call it, right? And it doesn't protect you. It protects the lender from foreclosure.
Right.
In the event that they foreclose, the mortgage insurance kicks in and gets them their money so they don't have a loss, right? So mortgage insurance is considered, I always call it the evil insurance. It's not really. It allows people to buy homes that couldn't in the past. But anyways, usually that's really the only feature of mortgage insurance. It benefits the lender only. With MassHousing, even on the Workforce Advantage where we say you're not paying any monthly mortgage insurance, there's technically what's called lender paid PMI on that loan. So it's built into the background. If you lose your job, up to 6 months worth of mortgage payments, the mortgage insurance will pay for.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a pretty cool feature. That's something that used to exist probably 20, 25 years ago, pretty common.
Okay.
And then it started to go away. And the only place that I know of, and somebody is going to comment here from some place that I'm not remembering, that it exists somewhere else, and I hope it does. Please comment so I know.
Yeah.
But it's one of the only places that I know of that still does that job loss coverage, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Only conventional loans, though, not FHA. Only with their conventional loans.
Okay.
Okay. So,
to know.
So that's a cool feature.
That is, that's
$2,500 for veterans or service members, whether you had the service requirements for VA eligibility or not, and job loss coverage. So,
Okay.
super cool.
Great.
All right.
I love it. And the last one for you, Brad.
Okay.
If someone wants to find out if they're eligible for a MassHousing loan, how would they go about that?
Oh, that's an easy one. All right.
Right.
I said it before earlier is that Google is a really terrible place. I get people all the time who call me up and they're like, hey, I talked to so-and-so, and they say I don't qualify for MassHousing. And I'm like, okay, who was it that you talked to again? And then I look and I go, well, that person doesn't even do MassHousing. I get that a lot where either a loan officer doesn't do the program or doesn't know the program. We'll just tell people, oh, you don't qualify for some reason. And they might think they don't qualify, but they also, because they don't do the program, don't know it. And so they're not well versed in it. I always tell people just call me. Like literally a 5-minute phone call between you and I, with a very high degree of accuracy, can probably tell you whether you're going to qualify for MassHousing or not.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone, I ask you about 5 or 6 different questions. We kind of run through all those answers, and I generally at that point can say, all right, Nick, here's the link, go apply. I think we qualify for this. Here's the link. Here's what I need from you.
Right.
Our next phone conversation after I get that from you is going to be our call where we're going to actually go over the numbers and confirm what you qualify
Right.
for.
Okay.
So
Go to the pro.
Yeah, that's it. If somebody needs to buy or sell a house, where should they go? This is what I do for a living, right?
Exactly.
So it's not up to you out there to keep up to date with what's going on. Today's rules are one thing. A week from today, they change.
Yep.
Right?
It's an ever-changing industry.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah.
So just call. I'm up to date. I think in the top 3 total loan officers in the whole state, #1 in Western Mass, all that stuff. So I do a lot of mass housing. So I just tell people, oh, just call me. Like 5 minutes, I can tell you.
Right. And it saves them headaches and having to try and navigate and learn stuff on their own online.
Yeah.
Just go to your pro here, Brad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brad, that was great. As you know, we got a lot of agents that are always just trying to educate themselves. So
Yeah.
you're always a great source of knowledge when it comes to buyers. So
Awesome,
thank
man.
you for your time.
Awesome. Absolutely.
You look great in the
And
new
thank you-
hat.
Yeah, thank you for the hat. This is great. I'm excited for it. All right. Well, thank you. If you have any questions about mass housing, hit us up in the comments. You can ask any questions you got. If you're looking to buy or sell a house, Western Mass, Northern Connecticut, Hartford County, all that good stuff, hit Nick up. He's here for you. You want to see what you qualify for, down payment assistance, not just Massachusetts, all 50 states and DC. We are licensed, so hit us up. We'll take care of you. Have a good one.
Thanks, Brad.